Superman's Day, a celebration so vast. King Charles the Bully met his fate at last. Cancel culture strikes, comedians in a bind. They're just silence, leaving laughter behind. Hello, everybody. This is William del Pilar, and this is the Red, White, and Rude. And we have a good show today. Again, I'm writing solo. One day you're going to sit there and turn this podcast on, and you're just not going to see me, but a brand new team. But until then, I am going to talk to you about Madam Web, the latest. Technically, it's a superhero movie. That's a superhero movie bomb. Did y'all know that Superman's birthday just happened at the end of February? I'm covering it a little bit late, but I had other things on the plate. GOP primaries. And something I will not let go because it was pity, 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 poo, poo, oh, we feel bad for him. And you should, but at the end of the day, he's not a good dude. He has his own skeletons in his closet. He's just another woke pajama boy. And I am talking about Kumail Nanjiani, who says he has been traumatized. He is one of the actors in the Eternals, which I knew every comic book aficionado knew would be a massive bomb. We're also going to have a couple of quick hits on comedians being canceled again and a King Charles update. No, not that fool across the pond, that leftist progressive idiot, King Chuck that wears the big margarine crown. Not him. We're going to talk about King Charles in terms of Charles Barkley and Gayle King. A show you likely never heard of, but it's just another woke show from a different angle. Well, King Chuck is 61 talking trash. He can't back up, and he was called out on it. But before we continue, you can find this podcast as well as our libertarian podcast, our interview podcast, and our sports podcast at grumblingsmedia.com. You can also find us on the social platforms YouTube and Rumble under the profile Grumblings Media and traditional outlets Apple, Spotify, Google, and Pandora. And there you have it, my friends. So let's get to this. Let's talk Madam Web. Madam Web is a fourth installment in Sony's Spider-Man universe. Sony, I don't know if they own the actual rights to Spider-Man anymore or they worked out the deal with Disney. But before Marvel sold to Disney, they licensed their characters out to various studios, and Sony owned the Spider-Man license, and they weren't going to give it up. Obviously, it's a lucrative license, so they probably get a big cut out of any Disney-produced Spider-Man movies. But what they have kept is control of the Spider-Man universe. Look, each superhero kind of has their own select inner circle of villains, heroes, and characters. So, for example, Thor has Loki. Has Jane. Yeah, I forget her name. Superman has, the Lois Lane, Superdog. Batman. That's his world. Well, Spider-Man has his own universe as well. Characters that have started with him and are predominantly in his world. Venom is one movie. Venom Let There Be Carnage is another movie. And Morbius is a classic tragic hero / villain in the Spider-Man universe. So they've made 3 movies with Madam Web being the worst. Look, for those to let you know how bad Madam Web is doing, Morbius was initially a flop as a box office release. It kind of made some of its money back and got some more views after a viral re-release, Netflix, and those type of things. But as far as box office, it outperformed Madam Web 83.9 million to 77.4 million. And that movie came out a few years ago when inflation was much lower, so the value of the dollar was even higher. So that's astronomical. In the fact that one box office bomb still outdoes a new movie that on paper for the progressives was a box office blockbuster led by women. Had a women's theme. Men are pigs. Your typical woke trope. What I found odd in all this, though, is Madam Web is actually a minor character in the Spider-Man universe. She's a blind, elderly clairvoyant. And she's also more of an adult attempt, maybe the young adult. Her storylines were a little bit more detective-like, if I remember correctly. We're talking 30 years ago now. But she was an interesting character. She made Spider-Man think it was the non-action type storyline. There's always action in Spider-Man comics, but she wasn't a villain in the sense, or a hero in the sense that was fighting anybody. She was confined to a wheelchair. That's one reason I knew this movie would bomb. Look, us comic book aficionados, we like you to stay as close to the comics and bring that to life. What studios do is they see something that they can market and make money off of, and they don't care how they destroy it, which is what they did with her, making her young, as they did. And the lead was Dakota Johnson. Again, it was a financial bomb. It had a critical reception, i.e., not very good. Overwhelmingly negative reviews. It had a 13% critic score and 55% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. There was also some press tour controversy. Dakota Fanning, I guess she's just indifferent. You have to remember, there are certain people who work at their craft, who study their craft, who are grateful for the fact they've gone from bussing tables or waiting tables to get their big breaks. Then you have the silver spoon elitists. Not good or bad. The kids that usually turn to drugs, OD, Marlon Brando's kid. There's a bunch of kids like that in Hollywood. Dakota Johnson is Don Johnson's kid. Thank God she's not a druggie. She's not that. She's actually had a pretty good career, but she's a silver spoon. She's never had to work for it to a degree, because let's give actors their due. Just because you are the kid of somebody who made it and made it big, that's no guarantee. So she is a good actress. But my whole point is her personality, her upbringing, her look at her and how she looks at her career, how she looks at those around. That could be contributing to the disinterested demeanor. And she also had what they said candid remarks. She doesn't watch her movies. She's not the first actress where I've heard about that. But we live in such a tribalistic world, and I'm not talking about just culture and skin color, but just ideology. And it's like you're in one camp versus the other camp. And this is one of those type of things that create a controversy. And I'm like, why? It's press tours aren't as big as they once were. And press tours being big wasn't necessarily the tour itself, the interview itself. It was the outlets attending, conducting the interview. So before the internet, with TV Guide, had a press tour would encompass a day with TV Guide or some of the questions that would be covered. You'd see the TV Guide cover, whether it was Newsweek, those were our only outlets. So press tours were much more important. The local cities and the local papers. Now with the internet, they've kind of become non-factors, but they're still done. So experts, so-called experts who will give you every excuse but the truth, go woke and go broke, say that this press tour, combined with the broader disinterest in superhero movies, is why it bombed. This was the Madam Web. Her debut was the lowest opening for any film in the Sony Spider-Man universe. Now, why are the experts wrong? Look, we will go to a superhero movie. I have no interest in seeing Madam Web, for the simple fact that just superhero stories today really suck. So I always look at the story, because I can turn on Netflix, I can turn on Prime, anywhere. You get the same type of movies that you don't have to pay for. And I don't like giving up $15 to go see crap. And if I'm expecting Madam Web from the comics, and I know it's not the Madam Web for the comics, then I have no desire to see it. It's that simple. As a Spider-Man fan, I'm like, that's not Madam Web. I'm not going to waste my $15, $30 with the wife and I going. $60 once you buy all the goodies, popcorn, drinks. Yeah. Another $5 for a mocha I enjoy before or after the movie, dinner, 50. So it's a night out for us. It's an event for us. It gives us an excuse to go out. I want to make sure it's a movie that I know I'm going to enjoy. So now, I guess, I don't know, maybe Dakota Johnson and the fact that she did 50 Shades of terrible movies. They decided to open this on Valentine's Day, February 14, 2024. Wednesday is not the traditional day you release movies. You get early releases, so it's Friday. It's not that out of the ordinary, but it earned 15.3 million. Domestically, so far, it's earned about 40 million. Internationally, about 50 million. Remember, it's a Spider-Man knockoff from the universe, so they're going to market it that way. It's going to get some extra viewers. So it's had about a total of about 91 million made. It's expected to end with less than 100 million. It's ending its run. Its production budget was 80 million. Production budget means how much it costs to make, not editing, not reshoots, not marketing, none of that. Just the original initial cost. Well, maybe some reshoots are added in there, but the point is, it's what it costs to actually make the movie. Uh, so far, it's earned 1.1 times the production budget, which is 110% of cost, meaning it costs 80 million. It's earned 100 million. That's what that means. I have to actually look that up. And the reason I bring it up is just I want to tell you there's a lot of useless crap you end up having to look up and research, so we don't give you bad information. But in essence, it means it's gross earnings were like 88 million. It's a silly formula. So in fact, I'm done for even bringing it up. I can just that anal and like to walk you guys through everything. But it earned 1.1 times the production budget. It's break-even point. So here's the issue. Break-even points are a formula that is determined, but what really determines it is each movie unto itself in terms of how much they spent for the marketing uh, in its various ways. So with a production budget of 100 million, you add in all other costs, and this movie's break-even point is about 260 million today. That's a 2.6 multiplier. Another common multiplier is 3% or 3.0. That means this movie had to have made 260 to 300 million to break even. I'm sorry, that's with the movie costing 100 million. That's what the Let me backtrack here. The original cost, and I apologize again, that what came out was 80 million to make that movie. So you're looking with a 2.6 and 3.0 multiplier, you're looking at the movie needing to make 208 to 240 million to break even. Remember, ignore the last 5 years and go well before that. You could throw out a movie at 100, 150 million, it would make you $500,000. I mean, you would clear your break even point. The problem is they started going to 150 million. 200 million, 220 million, 250, 270 million. If I remember correctly, it was like 270 million or something like that for Indiana Jones. I mean, your break even point just becomes astronomically high. And with the dilution of superhero movies, with the dilution of woke plot lines, white American hate, blatantly shown in these movies, uh, you're putting obstacles, unnecessary obstacles, overblown salaries. I mean, Johnson's just not worth what they pay her. I mean, to be quite honest, those 50 Shades of dot dot dot, those three movies really kind of underperformed compared to what they thought it should have. You know, so 208, 240 million is a break even point at 80 million. At 100 million, which is later reports came out said it was closer to the low 100 millions. So we're talking more than 100 million, just the low 100 millions. You look at 260, 300 million. This is a colossal bomb. The cast: Dakota Johnson played Cassie, the lead, Sydney Sweeney, Celeste O'Connor, Isabel Merced. They played Spider Woman, the future Spider Woman, and Tahir Rahim played the villain who had a vision or a dream or saw that he would die at the hands of these women. So the whole premise is Dakota Johnson has to take care and protect these women, this is nothing like the comic books line, like the comic book story. And again, all this does is tell me why go bother see it. It's not a movie. And to make it worse, I am into the cultural appropriation in discussing that. It started with Black Americans. Remember the dreadlocks, Egypt. They kept talking about everything, blues music, everything. It was like they were accusing every person of cultural appropriation. Uh, if you wore something like that or did something like that. But when they do it to a white character, what's the big deal? Typical white person, always overreacting. which is another, it's a false narrative, it's a lie. But this is clearly cultural appropriation to appease the woke crowd. I don't care about no-name movies, but when it comes to adapting something, I want to see the characters stay tried and true to the author's wishes. The problem is authors sell out, and once they sell the option to the studios has every right. It's funny because in the 50 Shades of Grey, which is what Dakota Johnson is in, the author, the creator of the 50 Shades series said, no, this is my character. And her and the director didn't hit it off. And the director lies. Well, it's a different medium. We got to do it our way. No, you can take and adapt that book to your medium, and it can be very close. You choose to put your bull crap, which is why a lot of adaptations fail. We want to see the adaptation of the author's book, not Hollywood's latest belief. Did you guys realize that at one time they actually considered uh, Bill Murray and Eddie Murphy as Batman and Robin? Hollywood doesn't care. They just want to make greenbacks no matter how much they destroy something. And that's what they did here. Bad writing, bad casting, cultural appropriation, everything in the check marks. Hey, can this movie work? No, 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 no. Their target market with a movie like this is women and young girls. That's not the superhero target market. Young boys are. Males make up 65% to 70% of the superhero audience. In the case of Madam Web, the percentage of female viewers was still only 46%. Even the money it did make came mostly from men. Why? They're the fools who didn't realize this is just a Spider-Man universe in name only. So some key points and issues with the movie itself. All right. So in Madam Web, the writers changed the character's basic plot. And that plot had already been established in the Marvel Comics and its universe. Madam Web should be around 50 years old, and since the film takes place about 18 to 20 years before Spider-Man appears. So this is kind of like a prequel movie. So that's where they sell you on the age. But we're not into prequel movies. We want to see the actual characters that you're trying to tell us they are. But anyway, she plays a young to middle-aged woman in the movie. Ageism. Ageism because she's young and middle aged. And again, Madam Web is an elderly woman. In fact, let me repeat. Madam Web in the comics and how she was created is a blind, elderly clairvoyant. The movie gives her a completely new image. Fans were also angry at Spider-Man's absence of Jessica Drew. Now, I remember Jessica Drew. I was in my teenage years when I remember being at the mall, being at the newsstand. It's closed since decades ago. One of my favorite stops at the mall, and there it was. Spider-Woman. This was before the internet, so I had no idea they were coming out with a Spider-Woman. I just saw it there. Ooh, picked it up. Jessica Patterson, voluptuously drawn, of course, as artists would do to get us prepubescent teens to like the book. But she is the first Spider-Woman. So they didn't even have her. But they did have 3 other Spider-Women. And again, including one that had culturally appropriated the character. And then they didn't even really develop those characters in the movies per various articles and research I did on this topic. So to explain all this away, S.J. Clarkson, director of Madam Web, that the film exists in a standalone world separate from any established Marvel universe. Legally, you got to wonder if they can even do that. Because I'm sure under all that contract and all in terms of them having ownership of the Spider-Man universe, what they're saying is, well, this isn't part of the Spider-Man universe. Well, if that's the case, what gave them the right to do this movie? Could Disney have something there? Legal crap. That you got to be a lawyer. But I'm being facetious. I'm being picky, being a little sarcastic here. But the point is even the director says this has nothing to do with the movie. I mean, with the Spider-Man universe. Another low point is co-star Sydney Sweeney said on Saturday Night Live, "You definitely did not see me in Madam Web." And she plays Julia Carpenter, obviously a character that becomes Spider-Woman. The film begins in Peru in 1973. Cassandra Webb's mother's researching spiders or cure disease, your typical superhero type, or any movie really. So we fast forward to 2003. Well, the movie shows Ezekiel Sims, and that's a character who betrays Cassandra's mother, Dakota Johnson's character, and leading to her companions' deaths and herself, the mother, suffering a fatal injury. So then we fast forward, and she was pregnant with Dakota Johnson's character, obviously. So we fast forward to 2003. Cassie, Dakota Johnson's character, is now a grown-up paramedic in New York. She discovers abilities to see in the future and access the soul web after a neo-drowning incident. Uh, Now, a lot of critics said that Ezekiel Sims, who is the villain, is described as poorly developed, unconvincing motivations, and a lackluster portrayal. I don't know. If I found out that one of these three or these three women in 10 years from now are going to kill me, then yeah, I would have motivation to kill them first. You know, he can see in the future. Uh, in essence, this was just a loose adaptation in name only. The only thing really is certain characteristics of the characters that touch on to tie them to the comic book characters, and that's it. Other than that, it was a very loose adaptation that comic book fans hated. And again, it showed in the box office receipts. It's nothing like the comic. It deviated almost entirely from the original plot. The script and direction, that's crucial because you can just throw up great CGI, but if we're not interested, there have been so many CGI driven vehicles in terms of movies that we just don't care. We want a solid script. We want great directors, and that had none of it. The success of superhero movies rely not just on the genre, people, but also a well crafted story. That was something Stan the Man Lee always preached, and even I knew that as a child. This movie could have and may have destroyed Sony's Spider-Man universe projects. Um, I mean, they got Craven coming out. That movie's been done for a while, but they feel it's so bad. You know, it's kind of hard to give likability to certain characters when there is none in the comics. You know, Craven's a misunderstood character in the comics. I stopped collecting that thing when they further developed him. They never really developed him in 50 years since he was created. So why did this film fail? Look, superhero fatigue is a lie. Madam Web joins a troubling trend in the superhero genre. Every live action comic book movie last year underperformed outside of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, regardless of the studio. Superhero fatigue is a term used by some as an excuse as to why woke movies fail. Me, I fall into the cultural debate, the backlash. I mean, even the trailer created negative memes for this. It was deemed as too aligned with woke culture. Being woke is not resonating with a wider audience. 70% of Americans are white. I'm Latino. My grandmother's black, but look at my skin. I have cousins that are black. I have your traditional beautiful golden brown with most of my relatives in Panama. My Puerto Rican side is very light brown to this. Uh, and my point being is I love my cousins, brothers, sisters, everybody in my family. And I'm not going to have somebody tell me that because of my skin tone, I'm vile and evil towards them. When the truth of the matter is, as an American, I have actually helped them more often than not. Gladly, and I would do it again tomorrow because that's what love is about. It transcends color, it transcends wokeness. But I will vehemently fight wokeism. And when 70% of your country is white, Latinos don't align themselves with Black Americans. And I'm trying to think what other Native Americans don't. We are our own cultures. We're our own tribes. But instead of coming to work together, Democrats, the plantation mentality, progressives are putting Black America against everybody else. And this is one of the backlashes you're seeing. And this is why I am in this game. We can't have this. They are pushing us towards a civil war in many forms and fashions, and it will be ugly. We have to stop this. And not supporting a woke movie does send Hollywood a message. This is another example of a female-led superhero movie flopping. In this case, they're putting genres, genders, and this also, the wokeness also includes the transgenders, the LGBTQ, and females all on one side and man on the other. Well, I grew up loving male superheroes because I fantasize being a male superhero. The only thing I fantasized as a prepubescent teen was how hot the female could be drawn. That's how life works. There were characters built for women. But I'm not going to go into a woke superhero who wants to lecture me about America, about how bad it's been, when the truth of the matter is America is an exceptional country that allowed my parents to come from nothing to become somebody, allowed me, a 5'7" Latino, to help build a brand new industry in fantasy sports. So that's why none of this resonates with me, and why it's not going to resonate with most Americans. And now with the illegal alien invasion, Black Americans are finally seeing this, and it's all being tied together. Woke, hypocritical, and cultural appropriation. That's what these movies now represent. Social media erupted with criticism, claiming that casting Johnson, who isn't blind, was discriminating against the disabled. That's how tribal we've become. That's a stupid critique. First of all, it increases your budget. Second of all, it's easier to work with somebody who can see acting as if they're blind. Keep it simple, stupid. But people who don't pay, people who don't care, people who are on their moral soapbox behind their computer, they care and they think you're bad, vile, and evil. Until you look inside their closet. Hell, you don't even have to look inside their closets. Look inside their homes. See all the hypocrisy. Look at their lives, how they live it. The hypocrisy. Ageism was another one. Some fans also expressed concerns about ageism, as Madam Web is typically depicted as an older character. Again, she's a minor character, but she's a complex character, not your typical comic book character. It could have and should have opened new movie terrain playing her age. They could have gotten in an older audience, an older female audience. There were various ways they could have stuck to the comic book and honored women, especially seniors, who are looked down upon in society as being a burden by many. And the truth is, we're not. We're the ones who still pay the most tax. I'm not elderly, but I'm a little bit older than the younger generation. But we pay more taxes than they do. We live good lives. We've been exceptional. We've helped move this country forward, and we're not victims. You know, cultural appropriation, again, the race swapping in superhero films. Celeste O'Connor plays Maddie Franklin, a character traditionally not depicted as black. It's not even a character traditionally not depicted. She is not black in the comics. She is the niece of J. Jonah Jameson, a white guy with a Hitler mustache. You bring that up, they'll call you racist. I tell them, bleep off. You can't call me a racist by your own rules, idiot. Again, it's nonsense, and all this started with the Obama era. So when they say it happens to them, they want to go to the streets. When they do it, they don't care. Hypocrisy. I don't care either way unless the character has originally been depicted a certain color. And for Black America, I don't want to see a Latino playing, even if it's a dark-skinned Latino playing Luke Cage, Hero for Hire. I don't. What can I say? I like characters to be played by how they were created. We must call out the hypocrisy, and that's the only way this hateful, racist belief system will come to an end. Madam Web is one of those films, when you learn about it, you wonder, why the hell was it made in the first place? And who's the audience? That was a first major roadblock that should have ended it. Or maybe make it a series with Madam Web maybe helping people solve crimes, and then when the next Spider-Man movie comes in, the cameo, stuff. There was ways to do it, and they chose not to. But either way, do not waste your money on another woke piece of trash. This one called Madam Web, led by culturally appropriated characters, ageist characters, I guess ageist, and just bad writing. Let's move on. Did you guys know it was Superman's birthday not long ago? In fact, February 29th, 19, we don't quite know. Why? Think about it. He was born February 29th. What is February 29th? That's a leap year, baby. Technically, he was created in 1938, but that's not a leap year. So let's go to a leap year, 1936 or 1940. That will put him at 84 or 88 years old. in leap year terms, 21 or 22 years old, which seems better considering he's in his early 30s in terms of how we saw him, how he's been depicted. Remember, they had Superboy, where he was a teenager, and but as the world met him and saw him, it was a Superman, a man in his early 30s, depicted to his early to mid 30s. Comic book lore says his alien physiology affects how he ages while he's matured similarly to humans in his growth. Once he matured and became an adult and stopped growing, his aging slowed down because of the body's accumulation of solar energy. People forget Superman gets his powers from the sun. Now, Clark Kent celebrates his birthday on June 18th. It coincides with the Kents, his adopted parents, discovering the rocket in their Kansas cornfield. Life coincidence here. June 18th is the birthday of actor Bud Collyer. Y'all don't know who Bud is. I didn't know who Bud is. Nobody knows who Bud is anymore. You have to look him up. He was the first person to portray Superman in The Adventures of Superman, a radio show, 1940. I just thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about Superman being born on leap year, what his age is. Let's talk about some facts, and let's give a hat tip to 15 speedy facts about Superman from the fact site. I did not know this. Superman is 6'4" and weighs 225 pounds. I always assume 6'2", right around there. 225, I can go with it. He's got more powers than just super strength, which we know, X-ray vision, which we know, heat vision, which we know. He's super fast and he can fly. We all know that. That is the heart and soul of It's a Bird. It's man, it's a plane, it's Superman. No, it's a bird, it's a plane. It's Superman. Yeah. I did know he did have super sharp hearing. He can hear a mile away. I did not know he has the ability to self-combust. Superman can explode or catch on fire. This allows him to explode with the force equivalent of a nuclear detonation. Oh, dear God, Chernobyl. Man, so Superman, in essence, is a self-made dirty bomb. Kryptonite is his weakness, and I did know this. He is powerless against magic. Somebody with magic can defeat him, and it's funny as a child reading it. I always wonder how's he going to beat this guy. There was some little character called I forget how it's pronounced, and he was a magical being, and he was more of that jokester like Q was in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Did you know that Superman is actually married to Lois Lane? It was consummated in 1996. Yes, Superman has sex, I'm sure. He's never been LGBTQ or transgender, to my knowledge. He is a hetero and has sex and consummated that in 1996. Wow, he was created in 1938. Didn't get laid until 1996. Anyway, it was done on a television show and also takes place in what you call a one-shot special comic book. In fact, the comic book, the one shot, was released to coincide with the couple's on screen marriage in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. So, who's your favorite Superman? I'm not sure I have a favorite, but here are the actors who portrayed Superman. Kirk Alyn. He was the first actor to play Superman in a live action film serial 1948. I have seen that. He continued in sequel serial Adam Man versus Superman. I think you can actually find that one on one of the streaming channels. George Reeves is probably the most famous known pre-19 into the 1970s and 1980s. He played Superman in the TV series Adventures of Superman. That ran from 1952 to 1958. Extremely uber popular show. In fact, he guest starred on an episode of I Love of Lucy. So everybody in America knew who George Reeves was. Rest in peace. Died of suicide. Some people say it was murder. In fact, they made a movie about that. Most people who aren't tied to the police believe it was murder. Not most, I apologize, but many. George Christopher Reeve. He is iconic for his portrayal in the movie Superman, 1978, and its sequels. That was when the whole marketing idiom was, "You will believe a man can fly." And it wasn't green screen, it was a blue screen. The first movie was phenomenal. It broke barriers. It made a lot of money. And of course, Hollywood and being stupid, they paid uh, Marlon Brando $5 million to do one scene. I mean, that's how stupid Hollywood is, and you wonder why they have so many failures. The second movie is what the gemstone was. That was the culmination, the pinnacle. And Superman 3 and 4 with Christopher Reeve tanked. They were commercial failures and it ended. Christopher Reeve was typecast, had a equestrian accident, paralyzed. He's now dead. His wife is now dead of lung cancer. But he was iconic in that role. One that newer generations and older generations know because he is an outspoken conservative is Dean Cain. He played Superman in the TV show Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Ironically, the series in which he got married. Then Tom Welling technically never played Superman except for the final episode in the final scene where I guess he donned the costume. My former partner loved that show, so I heard a lot about it. But it was all about Clark Kent, not Tom Welling. But technically, Clark Kent is Superman. Brandon Routh, who I thought played a very good role as Superman. He was featured in Superman Returns, a 2006 movie that was nothing but a long, boring 2 hours of hot trash. But I enjoyed Brandon Routh's portrayal. In fact, ironically, as a man, I shouldn't say this comment, but I guess Brandon Routh, they always try to limit, especially the Disney movies, the package on a man. So I guess they had problems with Brandon was one of the articles that I came across to do my research. I was like, what? Yeah, somebody wrote an article on that, if you can believe it. Then there's Henry Cavill, who is a spitting image of Superman. He just ended his role in the DC Extended Universe. In fact, a lot of fans aren't happy about that as they feel he is the perfect Superman. He played Superman in The Man of Steel in 2013 and others. These movies, Superman 2006, then nothing to The Man of Steel 2013. This is what happens when you don't have a strategy and plan for your universe that actually makes sense versus just looking at how to tie things together, how to throw something on there because Marvel's characters are doing so well. The DC universe is a much maligned movie universe that Warner Brothers owns. And in their defense, over the last 5 years, Disney has literally destroyed the Marvel Comics universe since the Thanos era came to an end with everybody dying. I haven't seen the final two movies. I just got tired of these movies. Got tired of them being woke, changing them. And it looks like I wasn't the only one. Same thing with Star Wars. These movies make money, but then when you look between the lines, when you truly break them down, you see how much money they left on the table. DC's no difference. So until 2028 and Superman turns 22 or 23, we wish the Man of Steel happy birthday. Much love to the late Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster and their families for creating America's most famous icon. I'm not going to talk about it, but I'll leave you with this. Again, happy belated birthday, Superman. But Warner Brothers did DC or these two individuals wrong, or DC Comics. They were living like paupers, these great creations, and they're living like paupers, and it's not right because a small law that came out that said these characters will revert back to the creators. Now their estates are well off, and that's the estates for all of them. If I'm correct, Disney just came to an agreement. Wow, I got something in my eye. I apologize. Disney just came to an agreement with Stan Lee's estate. Now, let's move on to Kumail Nanjiani, who has been traumatized. Kumail being his first name, Nanjiani being his last name. I had to look up how to pronounce that. I didn't want to mispronounce it. This guy's a funny actor. I mean, this guy's a funny actor. And excuse me again. Wow. Oh, my eye is burning for some reason. And I've seen him in some comedies. I enjoyed him. But he got traumatized over bad reviews. And the reason I can't let this go is it was just whoa is me. Look, a year after working out with trainers, seeing a nutritionist, Uh, Nanjiani called traditional masculinity a disease in 2020 and then claimed he had trauma after Marvel's Eternals was panned. Nobody forced him to go on this workout ethic. Look, I work out. I am 102 years old. I mean, look at me. I look great. I'm not going to say my age, but I am older. I'm over 50. I've got great genes. I work out. I hope my wife doesn't see me. I go back home and women my age hit on me. And I politely find my way out, you know. Now maybe if it was Sofia Vergara, there'd be something. But my point is, I'm not saying this to brag up. I do work out. I do think good things happen. It's human nature. It's biological in us, you know. But we take it to a different level. I don't. But a lot of these people, and Nanjiani did. He took it to a different level. You don't get the body he does in a year without hormone, growth hormone, without steroids, drugs that help you. Not necessarily. I'm not talking about steroids that you see at the Arnold Classic, you know, the bodybuilding tournament, but they're, you know, HGH, a growth hormone that help you heal faster. And if you heal faster, your body's going to grow faster. Things of that nature. He likely did that. I'm not saying he did. I can never say anybody did. But at my age, understanding that whole industry, having read on it, having trained without using the drugs except for supplements, protein shakes, energy drinks, you know, good supplements, glutamine, things like that. I know about this. I can see somebody, and I know the percentage. I can give you a percentage in terms of like, yeah, he's 90%. Oh, he's 100% roided out. You know, you innately learn these things. So this happened over a great podcast, The Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. I've never actually seen a full show, but I've actually have subscribed to it, and I check out, you know, some of the clips. He's able to get these actors, directors, whoever he brings on, he gets them to open up. You know, and that's where he got Nanjiani to open up here. Nanjiani was playing the role of Kingo in the 2021 Marvel release, The Eternals. He talked about his trauma. Disney promoted the Eternals by emphasizing diverse acting. He had a diverse crew. I didn't care about that unless they were taken outside of their creations. It had Marvel's first gay on-screen kiss between two men, and they think this is going to be a winner. How'd this movie do in the Mideast? How'd this movie do in Israel, in Iran, any of the, well, maybe Israel, but in Iran, Pakistan, you know, India? Yeah, it's not going to do very well. You know, so not only did critics slam the movie, but the audience enthusiasm never materialized. Nobody wants to go see a long, boring movie. The Eternals are not a popular set of characters in the Marvel Universe. They are characters in the Marvel Universe, but they never were popular enough to demand their own comics, you know, their own storylines. And they, you know, so again, like Madam Web, another subset of characters that aren't really strong in the Marvel comic universe. You're not gonna get those coattails with these characters. Again, Najani played Kingo, an immortal hero living undercover as a Bollywood star. I gotta admit, this guy's funny. I can only imagine some of the scenes where he's playing the Bollywood star would be funny. I'm a massive Bollywood star fan. I mean, I watch at least 5 Bollywood movies a year. Now you may go, that's not a lot. Yeah, it is compared to the average American. I've gone down into San Diego to check out a Bollywood movie. The last one I saw, I think, was Doom 3, so it's been a while. There were a couple I wanted to see. If you love Bollywood, you've never seen Doom, Dhoom, it is a silly, dumb, over the top, typical Indian movie that you will laugh and enjoy and want more of. Movies are fake, we know it. And when you don't take yourself seriously, they're funny. And they can be serious and funny, but take my word for it, check it out. So, knowing Nanjiani with his past characters he's played, seeing him play an undercover a Bollywood, or seeing him play a Bollywood star to hide the fact he's an Eternal, that's clever. I got to give him that. So the movie synopsis: it's a boring story, too much focus on identity, no character focus. no humanity focus. The movie's too long. It's dull in a lot of spots. And the actors, as diverse as they are, have no chemistry. And it also has woke lies about human nature. Is it a propaganda movie disguised as art? In certain ways, it is, but for the most part, it's not. But it is. I mean, the two gay men kissing on a screen, that's propaganda disguised as art. Great example. You know, so that's the movie synopsis. The truth, quality has nothing to do with Disney movies today. This is 100% propaganda and grooming. That's how some people looked at it. That's how I saw a lot of people who I follow and that I believe when they talk, what they say is true. You know, Nanjiani should trust actual movies, not leftist propaganda, if he wants his acting skills to be judged. Meaning, this was a movie about wokeness. One of the key points they wanted to push was two men kissing. That's propaganda. Look at the actual quality of the movie writing, the screenplay, what you get and feelings about it, how your character portrayed. That's what you need to do if you truly want to stretch your acting skills and want to be judged as an actor. Your acting skills mean nothing if you threaten kids with indoctrination through movies. That's why it bombed. Box office numbers: 164.9 million domestically, 237.2 world international for 402 worldwide. It needed to gross 520 to 600 million to break even. It had a $200 million production budget. This is what I mean. This movie, by all intents and purposes, had they followed a budget properly instead of just grossly not caring about the budget, this movie would have been profitable. Could have had a couple of sequels, but they couldn't, they wouldn't, or they didn't, or whatever reason. It didn't come close to breaking 520 to 600 million. 400, it was $200 million shy. 120 to $200 million shy. Not even close. The Eternals were Hollywoodized. Look, Marvel's Eternals was a film about immortal aliens who emerged from hiding after 1,000 years. Jack Kirby created the Eternals, and what they put on the screen is nothing like what he created in terms of how he wrote this storyline out. Now, it wasn't a popular storyline, but Jack Kirby had his own vision, did things his own way. He is called the King, Jack King Kirby, and he has a hand in a lot of these superhero creations alongside Stan Lee. So, what got this guy flustered, all unhappy, depressed, maybe, looking at the fentanyl like, fentanyl, was that the reviews, they were negative. And he thought that was, it was really, really hard. Look, you better learn how to live with the good and the bad. You get 6 figures to portray these characters. Deal with the negative reviews and stop whining. And I'm being serious here. This is just a vajayjay. This is not what makes America exceptionalism. This is a victim mentality. So screw him. And there's a reason I say that. Back to Jack Kirby. According to Jack Kirby, the creator of the Eternals, they are just alien creations mistaken for gods. They're part of an experiment. The Eternals are the most successful creations of the Celestials. And the downside, they can rarely reproduce. The Celestials are gods, and the Eternals were created to protect the Earth from deviants, which are the Eternals that have gone bad. Deviants are Celestials who convert, or who are product created by Celestials who convert into devils and demons, thus making the Eternals, I guess, angels. Looking at heaven and hell. And Kirby was big on that type of stuff. But not in that way. But they strayed from his original creations, favoring a more Hollywoodized version. This is just another vehicle for Disney to promote and push their bigotry and hatred. And that is to create tribalism, to make whites feel inferior and to feel guilty for nothing they are responsible for. You know that saying, you don't put the sins of the father on the son? I believe that. Feelings drive their stories, but the Eternals was a box office bomb. One of the first in the Marvel Comics universes. Feelings weren't enough to get people to go, I'm going to go watch this. In fact, Feelings of, I'm not going to watch this woke trash, is what kept people at home, not the emotional feelings you wanted. Had the Eternals stuck to Kirby's source material, maybe this guy would not have had to have gone to therapy, and the movie would have been better with a lower budget as well. Kirby fans hated it because it completely ignored Kirby's vision. So Nanjiani, here's why I don't give him any quarter. I don't feel bad. One, there's more important things to worry about. You're rich, successful. You chose all of this. You can take a step back and get better. But he hates America. He hates conservatives. You know, he states that the COVID-19 pandemic may have allowed Trump to reach more masculine men. I'm a man. Am I masculine? Yes. Am I toxic? No. I'm a realist and real about roles, how they can cross over, but that there's only two genders. We are meant to reproduce and extend our race. So that throws all the transgenders, all the LGBTQ. God bless you. Live your world. I don't fault you for who and what you are. I accept you, to be frank. But what I don't accept you as the norm. Scientifically, we are two put here to reproduce and keep our race going. Men are masculine, women are feminine. Now, Nanjiani states that many of these men, us, men like me, we like Trump's shrug it off approach. Well, that is part of the world. Sometimes you got to suck it up and get over yourself, kid. There's a book I just bought, and I don't remember the name of it. It's not in front of me, but talks exactly about this. How babying people too much is a problem. Why these young adults are not having mental issues, not having them deal with their own issues, making everything right. They're never wrong. All this stuff. When sometimes you just got to shrug it off. Let me tell you a tale of a friend of mine. It wasn't a newborn, 3 years old, maybe 2 years old, running across the grass, nice thick grass I had, trips. I get up and simply, oh, are you okay? He looked at me, stop! Looks at her, that was fun! Starts laughing with her instead of crying. I'm like, oh, what was me? She started laughing with him. He didn't baby her. He laughed it off and said, you okay, you tough, this, that. She was a little far not hurt. A progressive would have sat there and they would have gone to therapy over that. We've traumatized her for the rest of her life. Nanjiani's belief in masculinity, combined with him being a natural vajayjay, is rooted in his hatred for Trump. He's a feminist male. He's typical of rich progressives, regardless of race or color. He ignores what POTUS was doing economically for the working class and poor because he had butthurt feelings. Trump gave working wages, whether it's McDonald's or construction, were going up for the working class. That had never happened before Trump in my lifetime. Or if so, it's so minuscule and so rarely, it was going up. Trump had more people employed before COVID hit than any other president in America, including to this day. Trump did more for black universities than Obama ever did. He did more for minorities wrongly imprisoned. Of course, there were some that shouldn't have been let out, but that tends to happen in big bureaucracies when they do their programs. But first step. But because this guy is rich, doing well, he doesn't want to see the reality of what Trump did. Again, butthurt feelings. Translation, Nanjiani, cannot relate to living as a working class. He may have come from it, but he's quickly forgotten. He lives in an ivory tower, and he's living the American dream. Yeah, he hates America, the country that gave him everything. Going back to his year-long trek of how he got so thick, so muscular. Look, I'm not saying he did this. I'm saying there's a good chance he may have. TRT, HGH, and other forms of steroids are common. And Hollywood has access to this. And this is what allows an actor to make quick gains. I believe HGH should, once more testing is done, studies should become legal. It helps you heal faster. You'll heal faster, you're going to grow faster, get bigger faster. But my take is it helps you heal faster. I think it's incredibly important for athletes. especially ones that play football. They're on the road for months in a year in baseball, hockey, maybe one day. But my point is you don't get like he did in a year without some help. People don't realize how rare it is to gain 30 pounds of muscle in a year, especially for somebody in your 40s. I'm being kind by saying how rare it is. So, in somebody who's young, dumb, strong, at their peak, in year one, a peak 20-something-year-old male can expect to put on about 12 pounds of lean muscle mass. We're talking about 30 pounds for these guys in their 40s. In year two, about 7 pounds. So you're talking about 18 to 20 pounds given in 2 years of muscle. These guys are putting on 30 pounds, 20, 30 pounds in a year. These are 40 something people. Chris Hemsworth, this guy, Nanjiani, others, without pads, it's likely 99.9% impossible. 40-year-old, a 40 some odd year old gaining 20 or 30 pounds in 9 months? No. Without pads, impossible. You also look at the facial structure, squareness. When you see somebody's face getting more square, it's a common side effect of growth hormone. I checked out some of the earlier pics. He kind of has a blockhead. I don't mean he's a blockhead. His face is kind of like blockish, But it did look a little more refined. But then you lose body fat, so I don't know. It's also a lifestyle change. This is why he was having issues with his wife. When you're working out, that's all you think of. You also have shorter patience because you're not fat and happy. You're lean and trim but hungry. So these lifestyle changes do cause issues with the wives. You watching the movie, you see the end result though. You don't see the obsession that came with getting that end result. He also was attacking conservatives. One of his quotes, I guess, it had to do with a post that was talking about it being woke, of that nature. He responded with, "Looks like we're upsetting the right people. Eternals opens November 5th. Yeah, I'm writing a note. And again, he's attacking conservatives. It looks like they're doing something right. So then he gets pissed off at the negative reviews and the fact it doesn't make money. He didn't help in order for it to make money. He helped it lose money. He is as responsible for his own mental head case as anybody else. When actors and directors blame men for a possible poor box office performance before the film hits theaters, you're alienating part of your audience. And it's also about they were alienating men. Part of it was because it was a female director. I mean, you can't throw this stuff at people's face and not expect a pushback. Terminator Dark Fate did this. They attacked the audience before the movie came out because they knew it was woke trash. And the reason Nanjiani made this attack was because, I apologize, I wasn't clear, but he made this post because the director is a woman. And again, Terminator Dark Fate used the same attack mode. It Bomb, Ghostbusters, Answer the Call, All Woman Reboot used the same excuse. It Bomb. Now Nanjiani's butthurt because the reviews are hurting his feelings. He had no feelings about being derogatory towards fans who disagreed with him. He's a hypocrite. And he wants you to feel bad for it. Working out, things that never happened. Dudes try to fight him now. For one thing, which is apparently new. That was in an article. No, there were no dudes wanting to fight him. People actually are more like, man, what'd you do to get that big? That's how most of them are now. Are there some dudes that are looking to fight? Yeah, but they're not. The odds of that happening are slim to none. I know the look of people who are racist, Nanjiani notes at one point during the interview. Yeah, and when I look at you, Nanjiani, I see a racist bigot. I see a man who makes excuses and blames things on white people, on men. You're not only a racist, you are a bigot. I can look at you and not know you're racist. I know you're racist through your actions, what you've said, what you've written, how you acted. He describes an unfamiliar glare he got from a stranger he physically bumped into a restaurant shortly after getting big. In a bar, I would buy that. Not in a restaurant. Because I've seen that happen in a bar, but not in a restaurant. Racism. At the same time, Nanjiani makes it clear he genuinely wanted to break out of the nerdy friend roles he felt trapped in before this. And he's right. That's how I looked at it. He feels he's getting offers as normal guys would. I was not seen as a normal guy before this, he notes, pointing out that actors with this skin tone are typically stuck playing either nerds or terrorists. I'm shocked that he did not say that they're typically stuck playing nerds or terrorists or 7-Eleven counter employees. I mean, this guy's just pulling out all the stereotypes. He's using racism as nothing but an excuse, wanting attention, whining, being a victim. He has an anti-white agenda. He also accused Hollywood executives of racism, claiming they are refusing to allow non-white actors to play villains, that they're only allowing whites to play the villains. Are you kidding me? When all this started, it was about why is it always blacks playing the bad guy? That's what it was. That was one of the complaints. You can't win or lose with bigots and racists like Nanjiani. The anti-white agenda is not an open secret in Hollywood. I'm Latino. Again, I have whites, I have blacks, I have Asian in my I'm Indians. Not Indians from India, but from the country, Panama. So it's he's trying to separate us. Go bleep yourself. The anti-white agenda is not, it's an open secret in Hollywood right now towards the country, but not them themselves. They're not going to want to be excluded from roles because they're white. This is part of the representation agenda that these large corporate companies have adopted and began propagandizing to audiences. Disney's The Reimagine Tomorrow Racism Towards Whites includes training on systemic racism, white privilege, white fragility, white saviors, microaggressions, and anti-racism. They're preaching racism by claiming inclusivity through racism. No, that's not how it works. Racism is racism. When you have a safe space for only blacks, all that does is encourage more racism. When people of the same type get into the same groups, it becomes, I forget the term, but they all start thinking and talking alike, and everybody outside that group is racist or evil or vile. For blacks, that means whites. For Japanese, it could mean Chinese. For Panamanians, it could mean certain Americans. Panamanians could mean Colombians. It's racism and bigotry, and that's what this guy is. Big clue as to why we know he's lying. Zhao denies Nanjiani's assertion that she was a little upset with him for making such a radical change, and I think that's the director, meaning that he kind of said she wanted him like that. She's like she would have taken him whether it was fat or skinny. Well, not fat, but she didn't. She denies that she was a little bit upset for him radically transforming his body, and that, in a nutshell, kind of epitomizes the belief that you can't believe what this moron is saying, this victim is saying, this cuck is saying, this vajayjay is saying, this pajama boy is saying. But that said, I can separate the personal from the professional. Kumail Nanjiani has made some funny movies, some good movies. I probably won't see anything of his moving forward. Why support a woke bigot, a woke racist? You see, people like him project their own racism. That's natural with hatred. You have to check yourself. You have to remember when you start seeing white supremacists or black supremacists or elitists like them, that they're not all like that. There's good people. You have to remind yourselves of that, and you have to experience it. That's why I love working in an environment that is diverse. You learn about people. Now they sit there and say, yo, you got beautiful skin color there. Where are you from? Now that's racist. I still say it. I was at an event once, a girl tried to take me down over it, and I held my ground. And I was polite, and I was holding back. After that event, I said, not again. I just blow her out of the water. I've made women cry, feminists, not purposely. Don't drink at a party with feminists. Doesn't end well. Anyway, that's my take for one of Hollywood's elite vajayjays, Kumail Nanjiani. But that said, if you feel you need help, you get the help. But don't blame others. Look in the mirror, punk. All right. And he would probably squash me like a bug, as big as he got. Let's move on to some quick hits. The Capitol Hill Comedy Bar in Seattle, Washington, cancels comedians. 4 comedians were prevented from performing at a Seattle comedy club. Dave Smith, Luis J. Gomez, Jim Florentine, and Kurt Metzger. This is nothing but progressive hate and discrimination. The Capitol Hill Comedy Bar canceled the shows after receiving complaints from local community members and advocacy groups. They cited misalignment with the neighborhood's progressive values. This is likely true. But let's be clear. That neighborhood is full of nothing but hateful, bigoted, and racist isolationists who do this. White, black, yellow, red, green, whatever. That's where they fall on. This is their side creating greater tribalism, i.e. more racism. Now, the comedians' reactions, the comedians responded to the cancellation on social media and through various podcasts is not their own. Some expressed humor, others pointed out the jealousy, the Luis J. Gomez among local comics as a possible cause. They're all wrong. It had simply to do with the comedy club had no cojones, and they buckled under pressure from a handful of overzealous, crazy-looking progressive nut jobs. Kurt Metzger was great, though, and he went right after George Floyd in a joke. I'm sorry, but this is too funny not to immediately put it on blast. Also, am I mistaken that this club is in Seattle's historic Chaz district? And he looks up towards the heavens. Thank you, George Floyd, for the fun I'm about to have with this on Twitter after I take a quick bleep. BRB. I kind of really didn't get it, but I guess his fans and followers found it hilarious. Gomez was real about the situation. Are they idiots for booking us and then unbooking us, he said. Yes, it's a dumb move. Is my former agent an idiot for booking me at a super woke progressive venue that, like the entire lineup, is like blue-haired freaks? You know, it's a legit take. I mean, I'd be calling up my agent. What the hell you booked me there? They're all progressives. If you knew this was a possibility, all you did was cost me money. Well, I hope they can sue them. You know, they're going to give them reimburse all the people who pay for the tickets, but I would take them to court if I were the comedians. You know, there was the club's decision. The club emphasized its commitment to community, racist, bigoted, stereotypical values. They promised refunds to those who purchased tickets while expressing belief in the comedy's diversity, which is a complete and utter lie. Had they truly believed in expressing belief in comedic diversity, they would have the show go on. They're nothing but scared vajayjays themselves. That owner's a scared vajayjay. I'd spit on him if I knew who he was and saw him at a party. Get the hell out of my party, or get the hell out of here. I go to my wife, let's get the hell out of here. You know, those people sicken me who don't take a stand. Now, let's go to King Charles. Charles Barkley, picking fights he can't win. Program background, King Charles was created by ousted CNN boss Chris Slick, featuring less political content, instead hosting cultural figures and newsmakers. Ratings-wise, it was one of CNN's worst shows in history. It's been losing viewers, and now it's below 500,000 in weekly viewers. I'm surprised they still have it on the air. Anyway, the controversial comment is Barkley faced backlash for threatening to punch black Trump supporters wearing Trump's mugshot on clothing. He walked it back, the threat, but continued to criticize black voters wearing Trump gear. He called them freaking idiots. Now, Chuck is a 61-year-old fat man. He was never a fighter. I mean, that guy, you see Chuck, he has size and height. The guy's a walking blimp in his prime. I mean, that's what made Chuck great. He's like, how can that fat man play so good? So he's also a gambler. He's lost millions. He's a funny guy, but he's a moron too. This is what he said. If I see a black person walking around with a Trump mugshot, I'm going to punch him in the face. Charles Barkley. Here was the response. And look at the size of this guy, Zeke Arkham. Anyone seen Charles Barkley? I heard he was looking for me. I grew up in the you hit me, I'm going to hit you back era. This guy is massive. And there were others who did the same thing. I think Mike Tyson showed off his picture. You know, Chuck just talking trash because he's behind the camera and knows this will never happen. But what he's really doing is proliferating hate, violence against Trump supporters. If somebody knocks Chuck the fuck out, I won't care next time. He's a gambler who loses money, will probably wind up broke once his days at TNT are over because he won't have any more incoming income. And he's a big gambler. Those are the type of losses you have to be making that type of money to earn it back. And I remember reading a story some years back as he wasn't doing that, but then he got on TNT. Looks like his fortunes change. Eventually, that gambling will come back to him. But my point is, he's an idiot and a moron. But Chuck's funny. Chuck makes some comments I totally agree with. He is his own man. Ignorant, stupid, unintelligent, yes, but he has some funny statements and common sense. He does agree with some of my political views. So I don't dislike Chuck, but I will call him out when he's a moron, and this is one of those cases. And with that, my friends, there you have it. The episode took a little longer. I apologize. I probably went a little bit into the weeds with Madam Web. But you live and learn. Episode 10. By episode 100, Rush Limbaugh, watch out. Before I go, my friends, let me repeat. You can find this podcast, the Red, White, and Rude podcast at Grumblings Media. You can also find our other podcasts there too, our libertarian and our sports and our political podcasts. You can also find us under Grumblings Media at YouTube and Rumble, as well as traditional podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, and there's one more. Apple, Spotify, Google. Pandora. There you go, my friends. Until next time, this is William del Pilar for the Red, White, and Rude podcast. I bid you adieu.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.